Hello. Hi. Let me just adjust this a bit. Okay. Hi. My name is Olivia and this is Prophets and One. A very warm welcome to this channel, and today I want to talk about religion and education in Africa and what it has done to us and for us. But before I give my opinion on religion, I just want to read. This is a clip of 1835 in the British Parliament, and I have done a story before about it. I have done a story about it in the past, where I go into not detail, but where I do speak about actually the role of Lord Macaulay on how what he has done and how he contributed to making us as Africans think that the European education system is much better than the African systems that were in existence in the 1800s and even before the 1800s. So Macaulay came and he said, "I have traveled across the length and breadth of Africa, and I have not seen one person who is a beggar, who is a thief. Such wealth I have seen in this country, such high moral values. People of such caliber that I do not think we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation. Unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is her spiritual and cultural heritage. I propose that we replace her old and ancient education system, her culture. For if the Africans think that all that is foreign and English is good and greater than their own, they will lose their self-esteem, their native culture, and they will become what we want them to be, a truly dominant nation." That was in 1885, and it was said in the British Parliament to make Africa a dominant nation. To give context to why in his piece, in this piece for instance, he refers to Africa as a nation. This is in 1835, and remember the scramble for Africa. It started in November 1884 till February 1885, when European countries gathered in Germany, and they decided amongst them, how are we going to chop Africa up into pieces, give her the borders according to what we think what belongs to us. What country in Africa belongs to us? So you would find it was France, Belgium, Britain, Germany. Those were the countries who then decided these are the borders. And instead of Africa being one country like it was in 1835, instead of it being seen as one country, now they divided up into many smaller countries. The purpose of that Lord Macaulay says, I have not seen one person I have not seen. This is in Africa in 1835. I want you to picture this. Not one beggar, not one thief. He said the wealth of Africa, it was unfathomable. He has never seen such wealth. And on top of that, moral high values, such caliber. But Lord Macaulay didn't want Africans to be part of the world that he envisioned. He was looking for people, a nation to dominate. He was looking for a nation to control them. He did not see Africans, even in India, there's a similar story. He did not see Africans as his equal. He said, in order to dominate this nation, who has such high moral values, such wealth, such caliber, he said there was no beggar, no thief. He has traveled across Africa looking for a beggar, looking for a thief, looking for something negative about Africa. And he couldn't find it. So what did he suggest? He suggested Lord Macaulay. Okay, just an apology. It seems as my internet? Yeah, sorry. When you record live, there's always technology that you have to deal with. So I was just checking my connection to see whether it's still there. So fortunately, it's still there. So Lord Macaulay came here with the sole purpose to conquer Africa. And what he saw when he came here, he said, I am convinced we will never be able to conquer these people. Because when you conquer someone, you want to take what they have. You want to oppress and you want to undermine them, and you want to show them who is in charge. You want to dominate them. And that's the language that he used. He said, I do not think that we would ever conquer this nation unless he had a solution. He identified the problem. And you know what was the problem? You Africans, you were too advanced. You were too wealthy. You were too prosperous. You were too independent. You Africans. That was the problem for Lord Macaulay. And who was Lord Macaulay? He was a British politician. And his solution, because he wanted to conquer this vast, wealthy country, this nation, he wanted to conquer it. And he said, with what I see there, with what they have in place, we would never be able to conquer it. So how do we address this problem? Because when you have a problem, you want a solution. So, to conquer you advanced, prosperous, wealthy Africans from the 1800s, Lord Macaulay suggested in the British Parliament, he says, I think unless to conquer them, we must break the very backbone of the nation. Huh? Africa had a backbone? Africans were wealthy? Africans were prosperous? They were not beggars? They were not thieves? Yes, that's where you come from. Then he said, we must break the very backbone. And what was the backbone of Africa? He says, the backbone of this nation a spiritual and cultural heritage. African spirituality, African traditions, African beliefs, conversing with the ancestors, follow the way of Mahati. Those African beliefs, he said, let's break the backbone of those beliefs. And then he went on to say, and the cultural heritage. How do you break a cultural heritage? You make someone feel ashamed of who they are and where they come from. You identify the ones you can influence, and you use that specific culture to dominate other cultures. Sounds familiar? We see it, we live it, we experience it up until today. How when we come from different cultures in Africa, we use that to show our superiority. We use that to say, because I'm from this culture, I'm a better man, I'm a better woman. I can't associate with you because you are too dark. My goodness, you are in Africa. Of course you must be dark. Yeah. Can you see how we've been brainwashed and indoctrinated? He goes on to say, he says, the cultural heritage and the spiritual heritage, that was the backbone of Africans. You only take what you needed and you preserve what you have. You acknowledge the good and you preserve what you have. You celebrate your ancestry. You celebrate your heritage. You celebrate your culture. And you realize those things, let's use it to divide the Africans. And then he said, how do we break the backbone? Because when you want to destroy someone or something, people you need to understand, this was not an emotional decision. This was not about hatred. This was about believing that he is superior and the British nation is superior to that of the Africans. In spite of what he saw in Africa, Lord Macaulay could not accept that someone who is not of his skin color, who does not have his hair texture and his skin color, could have all this knowledge, could be so prosperous, so at peace. He couldn't accept that. So he needed to conquer. His words, not mine. He needed to dominate. And he said, I propose, because he identified how are we going. What was the problem? You Africans, you were too prosperous. Things were too well for you. You Africans in 1835. And then he said, he identified what is holding you together. It is your African, your cultural, and your spiritual heritage. To break someone, you must know what makes them strong. Once you figure out what makes them strong, you systematically set yourself about to destroy the foundation. Once the foundation has been destroyed, whatever it is that you want is yours for the taking. So we identified cultural and spiritual heritage. That was the backbone of Africa. So what did he do next? He said, I propose not to embrace it, not to learn from the Africans, not to share, to find out where do they get their knowledge from. He said, no, I don't want you Africans, I don't want to sit with you around the table and talk about you. No, I want to dominate you. I want to conquer you, because you Africans You think you are something else. You think, how many times have you heard about an arrogant black person? Just because that person knows who he or she is. So what did Lord Macaulay propose? He said, I propose that we replace, not embrace, we replace her old and ancient what? Education systems. Africans had an education system that was far more superior than the European systems. There were scholars, libraries, scribes. Our histories were recorded. There's a textbook where they talk about ancient Egypt. And they say, no, the Africans, they didn't write anything down. Have you heard that before? No, apparently we didn't write anything down. We're just told by word of mouth. That is the biggest bullshit. Our histories were recorded, but they were destroyed and stolen. And that is the truth. You cannot tell me an ancient education system and nothing was written down. Stop believing those lies. He said, I propose that we replace her old and ancient. This was in 1835, and already they said the ancient education system of Africa, her culture. For if the Africans think, the Africans think that this is his words. He said, if the Africans think that their culture is for that all that is foreign and that is good and greater than them, that if the Africans think that all that is foreign and English is good and greater than them, then he said they will lose their self-esteem, their native culture, and they will become what we want them to be, a truly dominated nation. Let me just repeat that. Here Macaulay comes from the British politician, travels across Africa, doesn't see a thief, doesn't see a beggar. What he sees is prosperous people. There are no borders yet. It's not being divided into countries. So it's just Africa. And he saw these people are too clever. You clever blacks. You darkies. Things are too well for you. You are too much together. You know who you are because your identity is in your cultural heritage, your education system, in living the African way, which was the way of Mahdi. Right? And he said, no, these ones are not stupid. We can't dominate them. He said, we need to conquer them, because he didn't come here to want to come and negotiate with the Africans. No, he came to dominate, to conquer, to take what he think it never belonged to your Africans. You didn't deserve it. And he said, let's break the cultural heritage, the ancient education system, and let's convince them. Let them think. Think. He said, not because our culture was better, because their culture, the education system was ancient. Let's break and destroy that. And how do you do that? You don't go and say, hey Africa, your education, it stinks. Oh, no. This man was good. The system that he was trying to build and supported it was an excellent system. They knew how to study. And he didn't come and say, hey, Africa. No. He said, let's convince them. Let's tell them that the English is far more superior than their system. And not just anything. He said, so only then, once he said, when you achieve that, they will lose their self-esteem, their native culture, and they will become what we want them, a truly dominated nation. Once he convinced, he said, we don't just stop with convincing them that Africa is inferior and English is superior. He said, no. Why do we want to do that? So that they can lose their self-esteem. The native culture. And what was the native culture of an African? It was to protect, to build, sustain, to grow. It was to uphold a woman. Because if you go back in African history, we had so many African queens. Women were held in high esteem with the ancient Africans. Until this man came. This man, Lord Macaulay. Until this man came. And remember, I cannot just give him all the credit. One man cannot change a system. You need many people to believe in your system for that system to work. The foundations of what we see now today in Africa, it was laid in 1835. But you can't give credit to just one man. You have to give credit to an entire system. And how did they do this? How do you break an education system and a cultural system? Remember, religion was not a word that was used by Africans. There was African spirituality. There were African traditions in relation to the ancestors. Religion was a word that came when Europeans came to Africa. Africans didn't even, when you read the book Stolen Legacy, Africans didn't have a system, or how can I explain it? They didn't have a religion. What they had was a oneness with nature. They had a connection between how to live right, how to live off the land, feed the land, protect what is yours, take care of your family, respect what you have. Those were the African traditions. That was African culture. Beating a woman to a pulp, it's not an African tradition. It's not. Disrespecting a woman, it's not an African tradition. Oppressing a woman, it's not an African tradition. Disrespecting a man, the love of money, I won't date him because, oh no, he doesn't have money. The car, he doesn't even drive a certain car. That is as un-African as you can get. Because African tradition was about honor. It was about respect. It was about restoring, building, creating. And it was about valuing what you have. When you went to the different tribes in ancient Africa, each person knew their role and position. Each one knew what was expected, how they wanted things to be done. Each one, they knew there were hunters, there were gatherers, and then there were the hunters, there were the gatherers, there were the people who take care of the tribe, because the tribe needed to be fed. The tribe needed to be taken care of. And that was what was important.
Volume.
Okay.
Go back to you.
Okay, so that was what was important. I'm sorry, I just keep on checking whether my technical stuff is still okay. It's pouring and it's raining in Pretoria, and I don't know how this will affect this broadcast, so I do apologize if maybe there's some slight pauses in. So
Yo.
is it why? Just check. Is the music too high? Okay, I just. This is what happens when you do lives. Unexpected things. This is exactly what happens. There's some technical glitches. The volume might be too high. Volume might be. Oh yeah, my music's volume is way too high. So I'm just trying to rectify that so that the music does not overpower the show. Okay, yeah, I think that should do it. Is it better?
I'll tell it's lagging out.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just checking with my technical guy just to make sure that everything is in order. Yeah, because we all need a separate pair of ears, to tell us what is happening. I've got the go ahead, so now this broadcast can continue. And I am so sorry. I do apologize. But thank you for staying and to continue. To continue to watch this. So yeah, my technical guy just gave me the go ahead because apparently the music was overpowering my voice. So yeah, so let me continue now. I was talking about Lord Macaulay, who said to break Africa's backbone, you need to break the spirit, you need to break her education system and then her cultural heritage. Does that sound familiar? Because now today we have fights, people are murdered, people are killed in Africa because we come from different tribes, because we don't speak the same language. You are too dark or too light. It's almost as if the indoctrination that started in 1835, it has been done so well that even today it's crippling our minds. And look where we come from. People of African descent come from ancient, rich, and elaborate cultures that created a wealth of technologies in many areas. Hopefully, over time, in this area and more people will know of these great achievements. If you want to know more about African great achievements in science and technology in ancient Africa, I suggest that you would go to this website of ASBMB Today. They have done some excellent research, this web article. They have done excellent research of what Africans have done and what they have achieved throughout the ages. So I just want to come back again before I start talking about the achievements of Africans. In 1835, when Lord Macaulay stood up in the British Parliament and he said, let's conquer, dominate, destroy Africans. He said, let us convince them that European is better. And they have done a wonderful, excellent, superb, outstanding job. They have achieved the objective. When that system was created, When you look at what is dividing us the most in Africa, it comes down three things. There are other things, three things: tribalism, education, and religion. I will say again, the three most divisive factors in Africa. It's tribalism, tribalism, education, and religion. Let's look at tribalism. Instead of embracing your culture, sharing the good, a culture of protection, of growth, progress, a culture of peace. What is happening now? Wars in Africa have been fought because you belong to a different tribe than what I do. So which means I am superior to you. And you can see where that seed has been planted in 1835. Because in order to divide a nation, you identify what is holding the nation together. And then systematically, you dismantle what is holding a nation, a family, a company, a relationship together. You would look, there's a saying, you look for the weakest link. You find the weakest link, and that is your in. And what Lord Macaulay and his cronies did in 1835, they identified Africans that they can convince that they are superior to other Africans. And that was the in. So using the different tribes, the different cultures, instead of using it to work together, the English government came, and they used the differences in African cultures to divide and conquer. Because what they also came with was, they came with their guns and their manpower, and they sound familiar. They then would weaponize or arm the ones, that the tribes in Africa that they thought would serve their purpose the most. And at the backdrop of that, remember, Africa had the African queens, the African kings, who were waging their own wars against each other, because for them it was a case of territories, right? War was not new, something new to Africa. It wasn't. And bigger tribes would usually, what's the word they call, usurp smaller tribes, which means when I am this dominant tribe and I would come to you and I conquer you, then you become part of my tribe. That was just, it's how territories get expanded. But when the Europeans came, they came to cause division. And they went for the ones that they saw the weakest link. And like I said, they didn't come and say, I want to conquer I want to conquer this continent, I'm going to use you to do it. No! They said, let's come with privilege. Let's show you Jesus. Let's tell you the benefits of praising to Jesus instead of being a savage and praising to something that no one even knows what you are praising, what you are praying for, what you are giving thanks to. And when we bring Jesus as well, together with Jesus, let's convince you, African, that your tradition is barbaric. You are a savage. And only people who are educated, who know Jesus, you are the better ones. I can converse with you. I can talk to you because now you speak my language. And how did they do that? They started with missionary schools. And with the missionary schools, it was two birds with one stone. They came with education through the missionary schools. And then through that education, they convinced you. It was now the education part is there. Your African ancient education system, they convinced you that it's not good enough. And at the same time, they came with religion to divide. Because if you still practice your traditional African ways according to your culture, you were being told that you are a savage and you cannot be part of this new world order because it's inferior. Oh my gosh, you should be ashamed of yourself. How can you still practice these practices? And civilized people are practicing religion. Can you see how even today that is still happening? How even today religion is being used as a weapon to divide and to conquer. And that is one of the biggest divisions in Africa. I want to narrow it down to South Africa. There are so many churches here in South Africa that people, you get your traditional, like the old Dutch Reformed, you have your Roman Catholic, your Anglican, AME churches, this old traditional churches, the apostle churches, right? And the Methodist. So now you get your charismatic churches. Where I now, as I'm here, I decided I'm going to open a church. And I'm going to say all the right words and I will convince you. The only way you can go to heaven is if you come to my church. The only way you can speak to Jesus is if you pay me, and then through me you have a key to Jesus. And it doesn't end there. Now we end up fighting about whose church is the best. Whose church is more powerful? Whose church can perform more miracles? Where's the spirituality in that? Isn't the purpose of going to church, isn't it to build your relationship with Jesus? Why are you focused on what your pastor say? And oh my gosh, do not let someone hear you say something about their pastor. A human being just like them, just like me and you, who breathe, who sneezes, who talks, who farts. But they get put up on a pedestal because, oh no, he's powerful. He can pray to Jesus. And when you go to that church, your prayers get answered. What about your prayers? What about your power? Because you want to pray to Jesus. Why do you need a middleman if you want to pray to Jesus? Can you see how deep ingrained the brainwashing goes? Instead of focusing on your spirituality, whatever form you want to take, whether it's traditional, whether it's religious. Why is it a problem of how people practice their spirituality? And instead of focusing what is important in your life, building an economy, looking for opportunities to make money, strengthening your community, raising your children the right way. Instead of doing that, you have fallouts with people about a pastor. Do I blame the pastor? No, it's another form of Lord Macaulay. The pastors and anyone who's there to take you for a ride just use the skills that they have to convince you that without them you are nothing. Let's look at being stupid and being ignorant. There's a big difference. An ignorant person is saying, hey, Sissy, I don't know about that. What are you saying to me now? That's an ignorant person. An ignorant person acknowledges his stupidity and his lack of information about what you are talking about. He says, hey man, I don't know, I don't understand what you are saying here. Explain. But a stupid person, an idiot, embrace his stupidity, and he wants to come and infect you with that stupidity. Let me define what I mean by a stupid person. If I don't understand your religion or your African tradition or your tribe or your cultures, if I don't understand it and I come to you and I say, tell me more about your religion, my ignorance, I'm being cured of my ignorance, then I become informed. But when I'm stupid, a stupid person is like, this is my culture. I can't deal. I don't deal with stupid people. I don't want to hear about it because I know better. That makes you stupid and you will stay in the dark. Let's look at education. I said it before and I will keep on saying it. Education is utterly useless if you don't know how to use it to rebuild your country, to rebuild your community, to improve the life, not just your own life, but the lives of those around you. Not on a grand scale, but the little way you know. If your education, your degree or diploma or your PhD, if it's just to show off, to say, oh, no, I have a degree, but you can't apply it. You are the only person in the room who have a degree, but you are the dumbest person. Because you can't apply what you were taught all these 3, 4, 7, 8 years. You can't apply it in the workplace. You can't apply it in your community. You can't apply it in your family. You have a degree. Someone in your family is struggling with mathematics, but you can't take the time to teach them, which means the paper that your degree is written on is worthless. You wasted your money and wasted your time because you can't apply what you have learned. You know what is wonderful about it? It unlocks the potential. It unlocks your mind to look at things differently and to come up with better ways on how to do things. But this notion that only when someone has a degree is a level of their intelligence, it's not. There are many, many people with tons of degrees who are as dumb as they can be. Then you have someone with no degree who's intelligent. They can debate, they can interact, they can comment. The insight that they have into things, it's tremendous and it goes so deep. And another thing, we live in a world where you can become an expert in any field. You just have to read, because this is what education is. You go to a class, you get a textbook, you go and sit in a classroom, in a lecture room, and someone is standing in front and explain things to you. You can do that in the space of your own home. If you have an interest in technology, what is stopping you from reading up about it? Watching YouTube videos, look at the research, because there are many amazing research papers are available free of charge on the internet. You don't need, because we say, oh, I don't have money to study. You don't need money to study. What you need is the willingness to open your mind, to see the possibilities and the opportunities, to go on your own and find those open universities that are free of charge, where you can get the information, so that the day when you start studying, when you want your formal, because you want that formal thing in your hand, and look, it's a great feeling to stand on that stage and to be acknowledged for your years of studying. You get the acknowledgement. You get the proof that I have done it. But if you don't have the money, if you think that you can't afford to go and study because it's so freaking expensive, nothing is stopping you from educating yourself. There are many sources on the internet, and some are questionable. But as you do your research, you can build a powerful portfolio without a degree. And then when you feel, oh no, I want to be recognized, you go. You go and you get that degree, but already you have the background, and what you are learning, it comes so naturally because you know what are in those books. You've studied them on your own. Education has divided us. Religion has divided us. That Lord Macaulay in 1834, him and his cronies, that system, yes, sis, they perfected it so much that today many of us, we compare what university did you study at? Where did you go for your education? Because if you didn't go to a certain university, that money doesn't count. Isn't that what we do? Isn't that what we do today? And this process, it started in 1834. And remember, the first Europeans came in the 1400s. So it wasn't as if Africa was just discovered in 1834. No, the Portuguese were trading along the coast. Portuguese, the Dutch, they were trading along the coast, and there were other nations were trading along the coast. But Lord Macaulay, he said, man, you guys, you are along the coast, you must go inland and see what these people are up to. And they were fighting wars about the Europeans against the Europeans, even along the coasts that you won't easily find in a history book. To remind you, where do we come from? Let me tell you. Because with that message, when they started the process that Africans knew nothing, that English is superior, remember we were talking about black Africans, the ancient indigenous or regional black Africans who look like you and me. Let's see what they were capable of, because we were being taught that we can't even invent the wheel, that if Europeans did not come, we would still be in cages. Remember the ASBMB Today website? I'm on that website right now. It says, more than 35,000 years ago, Egyptians scripted textbooks about math that included division and multiplication of fractions and geometric formulas to calculate the area and volume of shapes. Huh? Are you telling me a black person doing mathematics? And here in South Africa during apartheid, they made a concerted effort to convince the black people of South Africa that you cannot do maths. You are too dumb, too stupid, too inept, too incompetent to do maths. Forgetting. History has a way of revealing itself. The truth cannot be denied. The truth can never stay hidden. And the truth is that it was Africans, black Africans, let me just state that, Africans, that scripted textbook about division, multiplication of fractions, and geometric formulas to calculate area and shapes. Think of Pythagoras. And actually, Pythagoras, the law of Pythagoras was not done by Pythagoras. It came from Egypt or Kush. One of those two, go and do your research. Pythagoras is the law of Pythagoras, where it says a square plus b square equals c square. It does not come, it comes from Africa. 8,000 years ago, people in Africa, the Yoruba people in Nigeria, the system was based on units of 20 instead of 10. They required an oppressive amount of subtraction to identify different numbers. I just want to say this, scholars have loaded the system Scholars have lauded the system of the ancient Yoruba system. So tell me if this makes sense. People who are so highly advanced, civilizations, who did complex mathematical formulas and nothing is written down. So maybe we are that geniuses. Maybe black people are so superior that we didn't need to write things down because we were able to keep it in our heads. But no, we did write it down. It says scholars lauded the system. Astronomy, that's just mathematics. Astronomy. Several ancient African cultures birthed the discoveries in astronomy. Many of those discoveries were the foundation of what we still up until today rely on. They say some were so advanced that their mode of discovery up until today cannot be understood. Egyptians charted the movement of the sun and constellations and the cycles of the moon. Clocks were made with moving water and sundial-like clocks were used. Go and Google the Gregorian calendar that we use today and see where it comes from. Let's go on. There's an ancient structure, the African Stonehenge in Kenya. It was constructed 300 years BC. It was so accurate as a calendar. The Dogon people of Mali, they amassed a wealth of detailed astronomical observations. Now we have Kenya, we have Nigeria, we have it was what was known as Zaire. We have, did I leave anyone out? We have Egypt. They say the Dogon knew of Saturn's rings, Jupiter's moon, the spiral structure of the Milky Way and the orbit of the Sirius star. And that was 100 years ago. It was discovered by Africans. Tools. Steam engines, metal chisels, saws, copper and iron tools, and weapons. Tell me if these are the people who they don't even know how to draw a circle to make a wheel. Because that is what you've been told. That is what history is telling us. This is the real history. Advances in Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, between 1,500 and 2,000 years ago, surpassed, listen, advances in Tanzania, Rwanda, and Uganda, between 1,500 and 2,000 years ago, surpassed those of the Europeans then, and they were astonished. The Europeans, when they learned about them, ancient Tanzanian furnaces could reach 1,800 degrees, which was warmer than those of the Romans. That was in ancient Tanzania. They had ovens that burned so high, the temperatures they reached were so high, it surpassed and it exceeded those of the Europeans. Architecture and engineering. Oh my gosh, I don't even want to start on the pyramids. Remember the pyramids that were built by aliens? Because you Africans, you are incapable of even creating something so marvelous. So I'm not going to speak about the pyramids because it's well known of all the controversies surrounding the pyramids. The largest of the pyramids, I must say this, it covers 13 acres and is made of 2.25 million blocks of stones. 2.25 million blocks of stones. Try to get that in your mind. Try to picture that. In the 12th century, there were hundreds of great cities in Zimbabwe and Mozambique. These massive stone complexes were the hubs of, wait for it, cities. We had African cities. This was in the 12th century, that were built by Africans, designed by Africans, from the building material to the actual building material to the tools that we use. It came from Africans. This is in the 12th and the 13th century. In the 13th century, the Empire of Mali boasted again impressive cities, including Timbuktu, with grand palaces, mosques, and universities. In Africa, brother, medicine. Many treatments we use today were employed by several ancient people throughout Africa. Before the European invasion, it was an invasion of Africa. Medicine is what is now Egypt, Nigeria, and South Africa, just to name a few, was more advanced in medicine than in Europe. We are talking about before. Remember, the first Europeans came in the 1400s. We are talking about before the 1400s. All of this was happening in Africa. And you still buy into the lie that you are nothing? You are incapable of creating, of thinking, of building? Listen what they say. Some of the practices that were used, they used the plants of salicylic acid for pain, as in aspirin, kaolin for diarrhea, and extracts that were confirmed in the 20th century only to kill gram-positive bacteria. Africans were using these medicine before the Europeans came, and only in the 20th century could it be confirmed, as if we need confirmation. As if we need someone to say, well done, that's okay. As if we are incapable to make up our own minds. But hang on, just wait. Where does this come from? Oh, it started in 1835 when Macaulay said, let's convince them that we are superior. Let me continue. There were other plants that had anti-cancer properties. Say that again. Plants in Africa had anti-cancer properties. Caused abortion and treated malaria. And they were as effective, if not more effective, than Western medicine. Medical procedures performed in ancient Africa. Medical procedures were performed in Africa before they were performed in Europe. That's how advanced we were, and we still are. But Lord Macaulay convinced us, in order for you to get true knowledge, my African child, you must go to Europe. Medical procedures performed in Africa, they include vaccination, autopsies, limb traction, and broken bone setting, bullet removal, because Europeans came with a gun, so we had to know how to remove the bullets, brain surgery, skin grafting, filling of dental activities, installation of false teeth, and what is now known as a cesarean, that came from Mother Africa. Think about the ancient Africans. They performed brain surgery. They performed bullet removal, limb traction, autopsies, vaccination. They were performed in ancient Africa, and you never knew about it, because that is what you have not been taught this information, this history of who we are and where we come from, and you have forgotten. African cultures performed surgeries under antiseptic conditions. We knew how to clean the wound. We knew how to perform surgeries to prevent infections. That is the knowledge that was born here in Africa, the cradle of mankind. Let me continue. I try to keep calm, but I just can't. It says navigation. Most of us learn that Europeans were the first to set sail to America. Remember Christopher Columbus, Vasco da Gama, Bartholomew Diaz, Jan van Riebeeck. What other names were we taught that I have forgotten? Let's see. Evidence suggests that ancient Africans, they sailed to South America and Asia hundreds of years before Europeans. Thousands of miles of waterways across Africa were trade routes. Many ancient societies in Africa, they built, hang on, because the saying, black men can't swim. Let me just show something to you. Many ancient societies in Africa built a variety of boats, including small reed vessels, sailboats, and grander structures with many cabins and cooking facilities. The Mali and Songhai built boats 100 feet long and 13 feet wide that could carry. This was by the Mali and the Songhai. The Malians and the Songhais, they built boats that could carry up to 80 tons. Currents in the Atlantic Ocean flew from the part of West Africa to South America. Genetic evidence from plants and descriptions and art from societies inhabiting South America at the time suggests that small numbers of West Africans sailed to the east coast of South America and remained there. I'm going to stop there. I want you to go to this website and read what I've just said there. And I want you to look at the references that they cited. These are not sentiments. These are not opinions. It's research that has been done to show you where you come from, to show you who you are, to remind you who you are as an African. Lord Macaulay said in 1835, let's break this self-esteem. Why do you think he needed to break our self-esteem? Because if you have low self-esteem, you always second guess yourself. You don't have confidence. You lack fire. You lack power because you want someone to say to you, it's okay, Booty. It's okay, Sisi. Well done. So, we were brainwashed in such a masterful way that even up until today, it is still working. Yeah, in Africa, in South Africa. I want to come back to South Africa all the time. There are certain tribes or certain cultures who will not date a woman or a man because their skin is darker. Because according to their culture, you do not associate with someone who has a dark skin. And look, when you have been indoctrinated with something, it's not my job to unindoctrinate you. You must go and find that for yourself. If it works for you, well, fine, good enough. But do not come and then want to force your beliefs, your culture, your tradition. You want to force it on me. Like, You must learn about me, but I don't want to learn about you because you're nothing. People don't think anything of you. That's our attitude towards each other. Instead of wanting to force our cultures down each other's throats, let's teach each other about the true spirit of Africa, about the true spirit of our ancestors, the true spirit of this great continent that has survived. Oh my God, that has survived so much. And yet, yes, we still are. We are living. We are breathing. But there must come a time that we no longer have to fight, but we are building. What is stopping us from achieving that goal? I did not share this history so that it can become another crutch or something to lean on or to blame. I shared that history so that you can understand what I was before indoctrination, before the brainwash, what I was when I was connected to my roots, to my ancient voice, to the soil of this continent, who and what I was. I wanted you to remember the great people who came before you, the ones who were astronomers, mathematicians, who knew how to navigate, the ones who were inventors, and up until today, there are many who walk amongst us. Africans didn't wait for recognition to say, well done. You come from this group, you come from this great university, so let's acknowledge you. No, they shared their knowledge. They taught you, they trained you. There were African schools where you could go to learn about this beautiful, powerful continent called Africa. The cradle of humankind. Do you know that the original name of Africa, it means the Garden of Eden, where life began. Life. In you, you have the seeds and the blood and the DNA and the heartbeat of 1,000,000 lifetimes. You have within you the seed of life, the seed of all creation, because you were born on this continent. You come from great and powerful people who knew how to conduct themselves, how to gain knowledge, and how to fight when it was time to fight. But they fought for the right reason. They fought to protect, to defend. They fought for territory. They fought for honor. They fought for recognition. Not to be recognized based on what someone is saying. It is based by what they are doing. So what are you doing to make your ancestors proud? What are you doing to acknowledge those who came before you? And they don't want grand ceremonies. They just want you to remember them for what they have gone through, how they suffered, for you to be here in this time and space. We come from greatness. We are achievers. We were born to excel. We were born to stand out. We were born to make our mark in this lifetime. That is who we are. That is why I am an African. That's why you are an African. That's why you are breathing. Because in your blood, in your veins, vibrates the ancient knowledge of 1,000 lifetimes. That is who you are. I thank you. My name is Olivia, and this is Profits and Wealth.